Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and a new episode of our online interview series. We want to get an update after a fantastic mineral resource estimate from Millennial Potash, and Farhad Abasov, the chairman, is here with us. Before we start, just for the BCAC, this program was produced on behalf of and paid for Millennial Potash. Farhad, wonderful good day. How are you doing? You must be one of the happiest persons on earth here.
Hi, Jochen. Great to see you again. And yes, we're doing very well. Thank you very much, Jochen.
Yeah, so you just published 2 days ago, a wonderful resource estimate. Your measured and indicated resources were up 275%, and the inferred are up 210% on your Millennial Potash project in Gabon. So please give us an insight here, because that's outstanding.
Yes, Jochen. Yeah, that was really amazing. Exceeded all our expectations. You remember when we started drilling earlier this year, we were thinking, okay, since we really having great results from drill holes, we started intercepting, you remember, almost 100 meters and above 100 meter thicknesses of potash. We thought that for sure we're going to have significant increase in our resource, but we did not expect it to increase by 275% for measured and indicated and over 200% for inferred. However, it is what it is. We have measured, indicated, and inferred now over 6 billion tons. This is an incredible increase from previous indicated and inferred resource of 1.7 billion tons. And remember last year when we did our first 2 drill holes, we only had indicated and inferred. We did not have any measured. Now we have almost 650 million tons in measured as well. So not only the size of the resource has increased dramatically, Jochen, but we also see tremendous increase in the quality and in confidence of the resource.
Yeah, exactly, because I think your thickness really moved up significantly, right, from the first estimates.
Yeah, exactly.
More economic, of course.
Absolutely. Last year we had a 70-meter thickness, and this year we see, we saw, I should say earlier, this year we saw almost 50% increase in thicknesses. So we moved from 70 meters to about 104 meters in one of the holes and almost 112 meters in hole number 4. So that was amazing. So meaning that, we stepped out of the previous drill holes. I think we moved down by about 2 kilometers. We did not, frankly, expect that the thickness would actually get bigger. We thought that it will still be around 70, 80 meters, which is already very thick, by the way, if you compare this deposit to many other deposits worldwide. But to see an increase of almost 50% was a very pleasant surprise. And of course, that translated into a much larger resource that we announced this Monday. And you're absolutely right. We expect that will translate into much better economics as well. And as you know, we did a PEA last year. It was already very robust economics.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think also grade-wise, you were very stable, right?
Yeah, the grade was pretty much the same. Remember, this is a carnallite deposit, so grade was about 16% at KCl. But we also intercepted sylvanite, which is higher grade. But again, the vast, majority of all this, meaning the most of this deposit is actual carnallite deposit. So we're sticking with carnallite. It's easier to dissolve during solution mining, and it is very large resource and very thick at the same time.
Yeah, okay, super. So does that mean now that you can really go directly to a feasibility study? Because I think this really monster baby should be brought into production, right?
Yes, that's exactly the plan, Jochen. So you remember, if you go back to our other projects, we always do initial drilling, then we do a preliminary economic assessment in order to understand and really comprehend what kind of economics we're looking at. And then if it's robust, if it's very positive, then we go into the second stage of drilling. And then after that, we'll go straight into bankable feasibility. We almost never do pre-feasibility. So unfortunately, again, for us, it's the same scenario. We're facing the same situation, whereas, the exploration program has produced amazing results. And we think it's a high time for us now to go into bankable feasibility study. So we will launch a bankable definitive feasibility study in the next few weeks.
Okay, super. So with that resource calculation, just to be a little bit hypothetical, my feeling is you can produce there probably the next plus 50 years, right?
Well, a lot more than that, Jochen. The plus 50 years was last year, when we had only 1.7 billion tons. That was already 56 years. Now I think it's going to be for the grandchildren of your grandchildren of your grandchildren. I mean, this
Wow.
is going to be hundreds of years of production, depending, of course, on the production scale. But
Yeah.
if you take our last year's PEA numbers, meaning you remember we're aiming for 800,000 ton a year operation, then obviously now we're going to be looking at much longer mine life here. So probably we're looking at 200 years plus with 800,000 tons. But at the same time, this large resource tells us that this project can produce a lot more than 800,000 tons a year.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that we'll be looking at during our feasibility study, meaning we will still look at our 800,000 tons, which we think is probably optimal starting production scale. And then, of course, we'll look at some larger production scenarios as well, because obviously now with this resource, we can maintain a very large production rate too. Now, bear in mind, Jochen, this is still scratching the surface of this property. This,
Yeah.
the 6 billion of measured, indicated, and inferred covers only less than 3% of the property.
It's
So,
crazy.
so it's still a huge upside down the road.
So it could double.
Oh, easily could double depending on whether we continue drilling actively, and we're planning to drill 1 or 2 more holes early next year. This is again going down south a little bit. We think this will show the continuity and uniformity of the deposit.
Mhm,
But frankly, at this point, probably we don't need to drill any more for feasibility study. But again, just to show how big this project may become and
mhm,
how big production scenarios it could actually sustain,
mhm.
we'll drill 1 or more holes.
Okay, so how fast could you then finish the feasibility study? Because that would change everything. When you can go out and say, "Hey, guys, here's the bankable feasibility. We know what it costs. We know what can be done, 800,000 tons, 1.5 million, 2 million tons, whatever, in a phased, production scenario." And I could imagine that really some of the big boys already attract you.
Yeah, Jochen, we will launch a feasibility study in the next few weeks, but we actually have already started on some components of the feasibility study, on
Mhm.
some programs within feasibility studies. So some of the long lead items have already been launched. So we're already working on it. So we expect full feasibility study to be completed by August, September next year.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
Super. And, I mean, that is, yeah, the largest, potash, project in Africa. So that would mean potash from Africa, for Africa, which is great. But you have also already the US, state agency invested in you. So what's going on? I mean, does Gabon want it? Do the US want to play a part into it? Or maybe the Chinese are coming? I don't know.
Well, Jochen, you're right. We signed an agreement with a partnership agreement with U.S. Development Finance Corporation.
Mhm,
So they are committing 3 million US, specifically earmarked for our feasibility study. They already started releasing those funds to us. It's non-dilutive capital. That's very important to understand. It's not equity. It's not a loan. It is actually specifically, again, earmarked for our feasibility study, and it's basically a grant money. It is matching funds for our feasibility. As we spend money, they release the money. They match basically our expenditures. They already released the first 10%, and as we go forward with full feasibility study, they will be releasing the rest of it. So now, as part of it, DFC also wants to participate, actually lead our project financing. That's basically what DFC does. I mean, they deploy significant debt capital to a lot of large industrial projects in developing nations, and they've already shown that they're quite interested in mining as well. Not only with this initial investment in us, but also they've shown that they've deployed significant capital to other mining companies in Latin America and Africa as well. So it is a huge stamp of approval on us, and it's a significant political de-risking because USDFC obviously is one of the largest federal agencies in the U.S. with a mandate, as I said, to invest in large industrial projects outside
mhm,
of the U.S. And we think with their further involvement, that will continuously mitigate the political risk, financial risk, or financing risk for the project in the next few months. And with their support, obviously, we'll be able to bring some other large investors to the company as well. So at this point, what we'll be doing in the next few months, in addition, of course, to a feasibility study and environmental and social assessment studies, we will be working on project financing, and DFC is going to be a key part of that process.
Okay, super. Wow. So that sounds all really, really good. Then my major question, which I love to pose a lot of times, is I'm a shareholder of your company, of course, also
Of
a long
course.
time. And I have a price target, for example, of 6.5 to $7.5 to be conservative. Yeah, that was before your that was before your resource estimate. But we saw also in the last weeks and months is that a lot of insider buying happened and really substantial amounts which were filed. That is all public knowledge. Yeah. And it looks to me like that you guys, yeah, protect a little bit from an unfriendly takeover.
Jochen, I think, yeah, it is important to note that, our insiders have been buying in the market, and good markets and bad markets, or in good days and bad days as well. So that is basically an indication of very strong support and belief in the project. And again, this shows that the project can grow only bigger from here. Obviously, you saw what the resource is, and of course, USDFC involvement. And also, I mean, remember the potash has just been added to the critical minerals list in the US too. So potash, although it's not as hot as, rare earths, etc., but when you think about it, in reality, it's one of the most important minerals out there because it's directly linked to our food security. And there are only a handful of potash producers in the world, a handful of countries that produce potash, and the rest of the world buys and consumes potash. And interestingly, um, the largest potash consumers, meaning largest potash consuming nations, actually happen to be net importers of potash. In other words, they don't have any domestic production or very little domestic production. So it is becoming very critical for many countries. In terms of our plans going forward, look, we've always developed our projects on what we call dual track basis. One, we want to make sure that we can take this all the way to construction, and through construction all the way to production, meaning that we can actually put together a financing package for these projects. And at the same time, if we do get M&A transaction down the road, of course, we'll evaluate it accordingly and decide whether that makes sense for our shareholders or not. So both options are on the table, but with USDFC involvement, with also this amazing technical results, it shows that this will most likely go to production. Whether it's going to be on our watch or not, that's a different question, of course, Jochen, but we think this is going to be one of those few potash projects worldwide that will, see the light of the day at some point, and we'll be able to supply potash to Africa, to Brazil, to the eastern seaboard of the U.S. as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think also Gabon wants that project to be happen because that would mean taxes, jobs, etc. That's always good in an African country to have, right?
You're absolutely right, Johan. We've seen tremendous support coming from His Excellency the President of Gabon, from
Mm.
different ministries in the country, and primarily because this is one of the biggest mining projects in the country, and this is probably the biggest project in the southern part of Gabon. And both His Excellency the President and all the key ministers and key officials want this project in production as soon as possible. So we're
Yeah.
completely aligned in that regard, meaning that we're on the same page, that we also, as developers of this project, obviously want to see that happen as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the adding, as you said it, with the US critical minerals list is also super important because one thing we have to think about, I mean, rare earths, gold, silver, uranium, that's all nice. But before you can use it, you need to eat. So you need potash first
Absolutely.
that you can get that stuff out of the ground, I would
Yes,
say.
exactly, exactly. In
That's
order to do
important.
anything, we still need to kind of power ourselves, and potash is important, obviously, for our food security, as I mentioned. But it's good to see that a lot of countries are waking up to this. I mean, Canada a few years back put potash on the critical minerals list, and of course now the U.S. And I think the USDFC's involvement with our project also kind of is a testament to that fact that potash is becoming important for many countries. And
Yeah,
remember, Jochen, I mean, you know this, of course, but for our viewers,
yeah.
probably about 50% of potash comes from what I would call geopolitically hot spots, right? So almost 35% of it comes from Russia and Belarus. Almost 10% comes from the Middle East. So the security of that supply is absolutely important.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So, very important question to go to the feasibility study to make sure that you can do a production decision, construction decision, meaning project finance. Are you financed until you can do that?
A great question, Jochen. Yes, we're in a very good position. We got about $16.5 million in the bank. Plus, we got commitment from the USDFC. So, as I said, the first 10% has been released. The rest will come in. So, with that money, we'll probably have about $20 million in the bank. So, that should be enough to cover our bankable feasibility, our environmental and social, additional drilling. In addition, the stock, as you know, has done quite well. So, almost all our warrants, I think actually all of the warrants, are in the money. So, quite a few of these warrants get exercised on a monthly basis. So, our cash balance, our coffers get replenished on a regular basis. So in other words, we do get quite a bit of these warrants exercised. So um, uh, at this point, we're in a very strong position, whereas we don't need to raise any money for the programs that I mentioned. So whatever we're going to
Yeah,
be
that's
raising in the next, I don't know, few months or so, will be institutional, meaning specifically strategic capital earmarked for construction financing.
yeah. I mean, I have no problem if you take some new guys on board at $4 or $5. That's fine for me.
Yeah. I agree. Makes sense.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I would say that looks all really fantastic. You guys have delivered as always, I want to say. And I mean, Farhad, we know each other so long. I think it's the fourth company or third company we are doing together.
Yes.
And this is really amazing because you always did what you say, and there is the success. And I'm pretty sure, well, we had already a super success at that share price, but I'm sure it will go higher. And so from that perspective, thank you very much from a shareholder. Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time for the update. And I think, yeah, the future looks bright for 2026 in potash.
Thank you so much, Jochen. Thanks for your support. And again, I want to thank all the shareholders who came in early on because it was tough times, but they stuck with us. So the
That's
team
right.
has done a really great job to deliver as
Super.
well. Thank you,
Farhad,
Jochen.
thank you very much. Yeah,
Take
ladies and
care.
gentlemen, that was Farhad Abasov, the chairman of Millennial Potash. And you heard it. This is, again, a success story in the potash sector. And I must say, yeah, Farhad and the team really delivered. Stock prices above $3 today. And I think it can easily go probably to $6.5 to $7.5. That's my conservative estimate. I know also, guys, they say already 10, but let's see. Don't get too overexcited. But I'm pretty sure with what they have is fantastic. The project is super. Gabon is great. They have the DFC as a partner. They have good shareholders. They have insider buying. Every ingredient is there for much higher share price. And with that resource estimate, to be honest, 100, 200 years production, easy peasy. That's great. And that's what it should look like. Really have a look on Millennial Potash. Fantastic company, great stock. Thanks for watching us, and bye bye from Switzerland.